started falling. It got cool. Aaron got hot. 5 for 5, 40 to Davante Adams, and it was all over from there. I want to make just a plea here for Davante Adams for Offensive Player of the Year. There's some talk about Alvin Kamara, Travis Kelce, first tight end with back-to-back 100 reception seasons. But Davante Adams, 109 catches, 1,328 yards, 17 touchdowns of the season. Obviously, it's a dependent position. Rodgers has put him in that boat, but the Packers themselves take care of business on Sunday Night Football. They beat the Bears, they get home field. Bears beat the Packers, they get in the playoffs. Pretty juicy for the NFL's oldest rivalry resume for the latest time this coming Sunday.
Yeah, it's really juicy, and I think really the key for the Bears is going to be to pound the run, because I think that's where they could get an advantage. They won't have an advantage at quarterback. They just won't. You know, the pass rush of the Bears can be very good when it heats up, but Rodgers gets the ball out so fast, I'm not sure they can really count on that. What they have to do is keep him on the sideline. It's just old school. Talk about the oldest rivalry. It's what they need to do. And the Bears run the ball pretty well. They're not great, but they're okay. That okay needs to be enough to move the chains, because they do not want this, as well as as Trubisky has been playing, they do not want this to turn into a quarterback duel.
Indeed. Green Bay wins, home field throughout. Bears win, they get themselves into the playoffs. Pretty darn simple there for those two. On the way, the number one question for the Jets: what should they do with the number 2 overall pick? We'll get to it next with Trevor Matich, Zubin Mehenti, team if the Rams and the Browns happen to sneak in, though there's no guarantee at that point. 7 days ago, if Trevor Matich and I were sitting here, you would think it's a near certainty they would both get in, but that's where we are headed to Week 17. Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Trevor Matich, the national champion from BYU, in for the fellas. So we have our NCAA national champion, J. Will, out. We got our college football national champion, Trevor Matich, in. It's great to have him here all morning long. So essentially, the Jets defeat the Browns, and with that win, they clinch the number 2 overall pick. It's only apropos because the 2021 NFL draft would be in Cleveland next April. So they defeat Cleveland. They lock up the 2 pick. Jacksonville's got the 1 pick. There's no discussion needed on what Jacksonville is going to do. Obviously, they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence and hope that he'll be slightly better than Blaine Gabbert and Blake Bortles, looking closer to Mark Brunell, a guy that could get you to the cusp of a Super Bowl. And that would be perfect, right? North Florida. Lawrence is from Lawrenceville, Georgia. Could be a perfect situation there if you put it all together and make it work. That seems like a franchise that's irrelevant, that's spinning its wheels, and the only thing that could make most people pay attention to the Jags would be getting Trevor Lawrence. Let's put him there. The Jets are in the 2 spot. Firm. They could go after Justin Fields. They could go after Zach Wilson, another BYU stalwart, to match the man sitting 6 feet from me. They could go with Trey Lance. They could go with Mac Jones, Kyle Trask. It certainly doesn't seem like those two would be in top 2 territory, but they do need a quarterback, or maybe they don't need a quarterback. Or Trev, maybe they could spin that package of the number 2 pick and get a plethora of picks. So what should the Jets do? Some of the quarterbacks not named Trevor Lawrence, double down on Sam Darnold, and then build around him with somebody at the 2 pick, or package the 2 pick and get more picks.
I think they should stay with Sam Darnold. I think he has gotten a bad deal out of this whole thing because of the team around him. He at USC showed a lot of great instincts, but he didn't play all that much. I don't think that he ever really had mastered his own offense because he wasn't in it long enough. Now he comes to the NFL, to a Jets team that is truly abysmal. And he's expected to elevate that team, which really requires a quarterback with a lot of experience. Either that or a quarterback that can run around like crazy to avoid the pass rush and make plays off schedule. But if you want your quarterback to make plays on schedule within the offense, he needs to know the offense. He needs to know NFL defenses. And Sam Darnold did not come into the league advanced in that way. So the Jets have built up their offensive line. They've invested there, and so good for them, right? Their receiving core, however, is abysmal. It's terrible. It's just awful. And so who's he going to throw to? The running game is just okay. So he can't really rely on that either. And I don't know that drafting another quarterback with a number 2 spot would change anything. I would rather them take a guy like Penei Sewell, the left tackle out of Oregon, and then shift guys around on that offensive line to get the 5 best in there, depending on what position is best for them. I would put Sewell at left tackle for sure. But do that, make the team around him better, rather than bring in another quarterback and plug him into the same situation that Darnold has been in, and then hope that that guy can get up to speed fast enough that he can do something before you fire the next coach. So this is something that I think that Jets fans are amazing at the draft. I love them. Jets fans are knowledgeable and passionate. I love them. I played for the Jets. Absolutely love them. But this is a time when I think that the Jets would be better off building around Sam Darnold, keeping Sam Darnold, and making the team better than trying to bring in another quarterback that would elevate the team that's already there, because the team that's already there isn't going to win anyway, no matter who's playing quarterback.
Speaking of coach-quarterback combinations, we'll go to Chicago here in 4 minutes to talk about exactly what might happen with Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky. It didn't seem like too long ago that Trubisky wouldn't be back. Now there's reports the Bears would be interested in bringing him back and that Nagy could be back as well. We'll talk to our Bears reporter, Jeff Dickerson. That's coming up in 4 minutes to see what's going on with the head coach and quarterback situation in Chicago. You mentioned the situation with the Jets. It seems obviously a fait accompli at some point that Adam Gase is going to be out right after they complete their regular season on Sunday. Keyshawn has said this, and I always thought Keyshawn was looking at this from, in my opinion, maybe rose-colored glasses because of his affinity for Sam Darnold, sharing the same alma mater. He's the first person that said, and you echoed it, that Sam is a talented player. It's just very difficult to see it considering what's around him. A lot of people have been saying, Key, I think you're being a little too biased here. You're a little too in with Sam Darnold, a little too in with USC. But the last couple of games, particularly yesterday, have shown that Sam Darnold might have the goods. If Sam Darnold is surrounded by the requisite talent, I'm not talking like unbelievable talent like Patrick Mahomes or somebody else has with his otherworldly ability with Mahomes. If you get the requisite talent around Sam Darnold, what type of quarterback is he?
He's a quarterback whose instincts then could come to the fore because he's learning the offense. Although if they do make a change at coach, then he may have a whole new offense to learn, and that holds him back. But it's paralysis by analysis. A lot of ways we're seeing that with Tua in Miami in his rookie year, that Tua coming out of Alabama was an instinctual monster. Right now he's thinking so much, you're not seeing those instincts really let fly on the field. And Darnold was a similar kind of quarterback at USC. So as you give him new offenses to deal with and then receivers that aren't getting separation to go with more complex defensive looks that he has to understand, his instincts don't really get onto the field yet. And we won't know what Darnold's ceiling is until he has fully mastered an offense and he has guys around him that can run that offense well. Until then, remember, the kind of quarterback that you would need at the Jets is a grizzled veteran who can distribute the ball really fast and who can run like crazy. Not a whole lot of guys out there like that. And that's not where you're going to build your team anyway, because you're talking about bringing in a guy who can make up for problems elsewhere. You know what? Solve the problems elsewhere while your young quarterback continues to grow.
In our last couple minutes, we'll have Jeff Dickerson here in a minute. The Bears were left for dead, and so were the Jets. And I'm not saying the Raiders are great. We saw what happened to the Raiders. Yet another skid to the finish after that loss to Miami on Saturday. They're going to miss the playoffs. But it stands to reason if it wasn't for that miracle throw from Carter Ruggs, they would have beaten the Raiders. They beat the Rams. They beat the Browns. Too little, too late for Adam Gase. Take me inside the mind, though, of an organization when you're playing as poorly as the Jets. You've won 2 in a row. You could have won 3 in a row. Everybody's saying you're sort of giving up. I've been somewhat impressed by the way the Jets have played here the last 3 weeks. It doesn't wash away the stench of the 0-13 start, but when a team is left for dead, much like the team they share a stadium with, when the Giants started 0-5 and 1-7, and they were on the cusp of the playoffs here until the last couple of weeks when they backslid with the Jones injury. Take me inside the mind of a player. You're 0-13. You've won 2 in a row. You could have won their last 3. They haven't given up. I don't think this reflects anything on Adam Gase. He's clearly out. But I've been impressed with the 55, not the 53, the 55 on the roster this year. At least the last few weeks, they've shown me something I didn't think they were capable of.
Me. That's what it's about. That doesn't mean that they're selfish. It means that they understand that a new coach is going to come in. And when a new coach comes in his first team meeting, he says all the right things to the players. We're all together and we're going to win. Everybody's going to have a chance. That's what he says. What he's thinking is this. You guys sitting before me in this team meeting got the last coach fired. If I get fired, it's not going to be because you did it again. I'm going to bring in other people. And so right now, what teams that are struggling, like the Jets, like the Jaguars, what they're thinking is, as individual players, what do I need to do to put on tape something that'll impress the next coach, that the next coach will think I can help him not get fired? And if that's not good enough in terms of a coach that comes in and wants to just clean house anyway, then the next team that I could go to, that coach will look at me on tape and say, that guy comes from a bad team, but he's not likely to get me fired because I like the way he's playing. And so you lose team cohesion. You lose everybody playing for their brother on either side of them, but you gain individuals trying to show what they can do. So that can be good. It can be bad. But that's what players are thinking when they're in this kind of a situation for the most part.
And it's no doubt, no matter what happens, they have locked up the second overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft with a win over Cleveland yesterday. And the 2021 NFL draft will be held in Cleveland beginning on April 30th. It could be another reboot.